Today we're going to be discussing the unfortunate reality of gun-free zones. How's it going, guys, and welcome to another episode of Coffee Talk. My name is Chad and this is the Hopeful Homestead. And in this series of videos, I like to think I'm talking to all the husbands and dads out there about all the hard things in life we have to deal with. And once again, we're talking about firearms and some of the topics that go around the subject of guns. As many of you know, I conceal carry. I have guns with me all the time. I have guns in my truck. I have guns on my person. I have guns in this cabin. I've got guns at my home. I've got guns everywhere for the purpose of protecting my family. And I've broken down the reasons to do that quite a bit in several of these videos. But the one thing that irks me is that there are quite a few places that guns are restricted, that are, gun-free zones, which it's just the most oxymoronic thing on the planet to me. I truly do not understand the reason behind the logic for restricting guns from a place. That's implying that the criminals and the bad doers out there will comply with that restriction, which obviously they aren't going to do. The only people who will comply with a restriction like that are good law-abiding citizens who are good people, who don't want to break the rules. So all you're doing is restricting good people from having a way to protect themselves in an area that now bad people are aware will have no guns. Like, a bad person will now be aware of thinking, oh, this place is a gun-free zone? Great. That means I can sneak mine in and good people will be unarmed. You would think that this would be a common sense scenario that people would understand, but unfortunately that's just not the case. Good coffee as always. But some of the kind of places that you can expect to have gun-free zones are shopping malls, schools, government buildings, post office. For some reason, my Second Amendment right ends the second I'm walking in to ship a package at your local post office. That's ridiculous. Shopping, like I said earlier, shopping malls, that's also ridiculous. That's like one of the biggest places that you can expect a mass shooter, because there's a lot of people gathered in a tight spot with limited exits. Shopping malls and churches are like the number one and number two places, and schools, for mass shootings to happen. And I can see a little bit of the logic behind schools, but maybe if you obviously are restricting because it's already against the law for students who are underage to carry firearms with them, so obviously they shouldn't be doing it. But, in my opinion, a good law-abiding person that is a teacher who is proficient in firearm usage, if they want to carry a gun concealed, I could see maybe requiring it to be concealed in a place like that. Still not totally on board with that, but I could see the reason to want to have a teacher to have their gun concealed inside their bag or inside their, inside their clothing, something to where no one knows. But in a true crap at the van scenario, if there's a shooter, they don't have to call for help. They have a way of being able to protect themselves. And the argument of saying that, oh, you shouldn't put that responsibility on the teachers, that's not their job, it's the police's job. I got news for you. Personal safety is your job first and foremost only. And when you're in charge of someone else's safety, like as a teacher, and you got a room full of kids that are under your wing, yes, their safety is your responsibility first and foremost. Just like a parent is your family, you're as a father, as a husband, your wife and kids, their safety is your responsibility first and foremost, not the responsibility of the police officer that's several miles away and has to be called in order to be able to have them come for help. I've got no problem with law enforcement coming to help, but they are supplementary to you being in charge of your own safety and your family's safety and your kids' safety if you're a teacher or whatnot. So got to get that mental block out of people's heads, because the logic is just not there. I saw this one story circling around on Facebook because the law in Florida changed recently when a local court struck down the open carry ban that Florida had. There was this middle-aged, 30-something year old mom, a wife, that was taking her kids to her local Publix, which, if you don't know, Publix in Florida is the most popular chain of grocery stores. And Publix announced that they follow the local laws. So if you want to open carry in Publix, you're allowed to open carry in Publix, and that's a good thing. And this mom was loading her kids into her car and in the parking lot of Publix, and she saw a couple of parking spots away from her a father with his kids. He was probably in his 40s or 50s with some older kids and was loading them up into their car. And she noticed that the father had a big old Glock carrying outside the waistband, and it was sticking out on his hip. And she was complaining in her post on Facebook about how she felt unsafe and that something needed to be done, that this is ridiculous, that we're going back to the Wild West times, and that now with all of the mass shootings and everything going on and the assassinations that are happening in the world, she doesn't even know who to believe is safe or unsafe. She can't tell the difference between who to be worried about and not be worried about, because people are just carrying guns out in the open like this. And I remember thinking, what? It's pretty obvious to tell the difference, because the difference is who's shooting everyone and who's not. You know, like maybe that's the delineating factor that helps you understand of who's the dangerous threat and who's just a law-abiding citizen that's taking measures to protect his family out in public. Kind of obvious. So it's people like that that are behind the reasoning for these gun-free zones that cause the rest of us to have to end up being outgunned and unarmed in scenarios where I know when I'm picking up my daughters from school, I can't stand the fact that if I have to walk in to pick them up for some reason, I'm not allowed to carry my gun with me. I have to leave my gun away, because I can't carry it into the school. You know, in that scenario, I want to be able, if something happened in that moment, if there was a threat to my kids, I don't have my gun with me. You know, because in a place where I especially would want to be able to defend them. So it's just mind-boggling to me, the logic behind this stuff. It's like I said, the unfortunate reality of gun-free zones. While they might be well-intentioned, there's zero logic behind that intention, because bad people are going to always not obey the rules, and they're going to carry the guns wherever they want to go. It's just the good people that end up getting screwed in this as a result. And finally, I'll leave you with this. My wife and I, as I mentioned in previous videos, we own a restaurant here in Florida, and when the law changed here, we were having to decide whether or not we were going to allow open carry inside of our restaurant. And we determined that absolutely, we were fully in support of that, because now we can know that, okay, if we see several dudes in there that have got families and they've got guns on their hips, then we're pretty safe. I feel more safe in that scenario with a bunch of guys in there that are taking measures into their hands to protect their families and protect everyone around them. And it's going to be a much more likely scenario where if a bad actor does come in there, that threat will be neutralized way before law enforcement can show up and to actually help out. So for us, we like the idea of knowing that, okay, if we build a reputation as being a place that welcomes gun owners, it's going to become a reputation of a place that's going to be pretty safe to be. So for the life of me, I don't understand why more people don't get on board with that. But that's going to do it for today's video. Thanks for being here. Again, my name is Chad, and this is the Hopeful Homestead. Hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you feel like sticking around, here's a video all about why it's important for you to carry a gun as a husband and a father. So go check that out, and I'll see you over in that video. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.